we're going to have two presentations and a discussion. So first of all, we'll start with Daniel, and he's going to start with an introduction with current regulatory issues we're facing in this area, and he'll start us off. So not to delay anymore, Daniel, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. So today I want to give you a short introduction into new compliance requirements for data management in the context of safe and sustainable products. And first, I will dive a little bit into the new MOCRA regulation and what does it mean for records. And then I will give you an outlook in some topics that the EU is currently working on. So MOCRA is a updated law in the US regulating the use of cosmetics, and compared to the FDA regulations for drug development and pharma products, the cosmetic industry had in the past more a lightweight approach, but with the MOCRA regulation, the FDA has now higher requirements, especially to make more transparency in the area of the product information, which ingredients products have, how to manage adverse events, and how to improve the safety. Also, the FDA has the right to access the records if there are doubts that a product is not safe. And a current study shows that currently 48% of cosmetic companies in the US are not MOCRA compliant. So the study tells us that around 135,000 products that are sold in pharmacies, groceries, and in other channels, the vendors are not compliant, and this is an area of concern, and these companies have to catch up. So key requirements is clearly first to have a product and registration in the US to disclose the ingredients of the cosmetic products, and to have evidence of the safety. And a responsible person is required to ensure and to maintain these records supporting the safety evidence of the cosmetic products. And we see here that the records management for product and safety information becomes more important. First, we have the registration information, the product listings, but also the safety information. And if adverse events occur, these have to be reported, and also the records have to be kept. And the FDA has the right to access all these records, and therefore a cosmetic company has to have now higher levels of requirements for records management. And in today's webinar, we want to show you two practical examples. One is the Edelweiss Smart Safety application, which generates also safety informations. And then in the next step, we would present Edelweiss Doc, where you can have a trusted environment for safety records. So typical process would be to create the records for the safety substantiation in the Edelweiss Smart Safety application. We would generate a report. We would sign this report with a FDA compliant signature, and then we have to manage the processes on one side to manage adverse events, to manage the yearly updates of the product information, to have a knowledge management about the scientific evidences, and to archive the records according to the legal retention periods of the country. So in the next chapter, I want to give you a short update what is coming also in the EU in the context of sustainable products. And there we have the ESPR regulation, which requires to provide more information about the safety and sustainability of products. And it is also one important step in the strategy of Europe in the Green Deal and to promote the circular economy. The other development in the EU is the digital product passports. There, the vision is that each product has also a digital twin where on one side the important information about the product, the environmental footprint, and other information is available digital so that we can make a transition to a more sustainable economy. A short outlook and recommendation. So in our view, the basis for the upcoming new compliance requirements as well as the vision for sustainable product information is to have a trusted records management, that you have to ensure that your processes and systems are ready to manage records in a compliant way. On the other side, the trend is that the access to these records clearly is for regulators, but also for supply chain partners, and in the end also for customers. And on top of this, we see the development of AI to make processes more intelligent, but there, especially in the area of safety and product information, we have to be compliant, for example, with the EU law. So this was a small outlook, and now I would hand over to Barry for the next part of the webinar. Barry, can you hear me?
Okay, Daniel, thank you. I will come on now, and I'll just try to explain some of the things we've been doing in response to that. Okay, there you are. So hopefully Connor managed to shepherd some people here after our problems with getting the GoToWebinar started. Sorry about that. Now, let me see. I can, if I go to the slides, do you see a starting screen, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to, in my presentation, give kind of an overview of how we're trying to address the current practical needs on getting the job done day to day, and also maybe preparing for the future. So that's why I say a bit of a mix of practical and extensible approaches supported by innovation, because my assumption here is, well, we have to support the risk assessment work today with current requirements, but clearly there's a lot of things happening with regards to regulations and changes in them. So we also have to prepare for what's coming, right? Might be you have an ingredient in your product that now not acceptable, by a regulator next year. How are you going to deal with that? There also might be future emerging regulatory frameworks that go more towards safer by design, and so on. So I tried to give a bit of a feel for that. Also, it's something we concentrate on. At the end of the day, to meet all these requirements, at the end of the day, it's about how we organize data and do that efficiently. So a little bit on issues and then cases, how we source knowledge, why collaboration is important in our model on that, and then I'll finish with an application example. So first of all, in terms of our goals, we're trying to support the practical day-to-day risk assessment work and recognize that a lot of time is spent trying to find the information needed to do the work. If we do find information, can we have a system that makes that more efficient and more reliable? And of course, as many of you are probably encountering in your work, how do we use artificial intelligence to help us do that? And there may be use cases like curation or reporting where that's more clear, but we have to test it out. There may be other use cases where claims are being made, which may be less reliable. So in the end, we need to test everything against our use cases and case studies. Again, we want to always try to follow open standards and best practices as we go about this. So that's sort of the overall goals. They'll be going on for some years, I know. Now we focus a lot on data because in the end, in any report, in any dossier, in any model, the most important thing is what we do about data. So now we know from talking with you, a lot of time is spent trying to gather the information behind your decision or your report. So that's something. Also, when we do that, it's quite complicated because a lot of historical data may be very uncertain if you can rely on it or not. You might do a systematic review. This takes a lot of time. And even when you do that, you may have to reject most of the literature. And that takes a lot of time. So how can we assist that? More and more, of course, it might be more than a NOEL based on an animal experiment. So how do we bring that new kind of NAMS data in and make that data fair and be assured about its quality? Now that might be in public programs, which we work on, but it also might be on your own programs internally too. So within your company, you also have to work on this quality, integrity, and fairness of your data. And more, if we can work together on open standards and ontologies, like we've been sort of missionaries on for some time, but it's a very difficult goal to achieve. Be interested to hear your suggestions on this. In the end, this common agreement, not just on traditional data, but new NAMS data, and our agreement on metadata is really important, in terms of being able to bring data in a good way into a system. And at the end of the day, as a business case, this work, finding data, curating it, bringing it into your case, takes up a lot of your time. We know that. So we want to try and reduce that, have a business case that you don't have to spend so much time bringing the information you're required to bring in, and obviously try to assist that with AI. So of course, then we need good use cases and test that out. We need good business cases and apply that to formulations and ingredients on cases. And we should, in my opinion, to try to solve some of the problems we all see, I think, in our organizations, in our programs, in our projects. We need a set of principles on that, and we've tried to frame that. We're happy to share this with you as we finish it over coming weeks. We need these principles on how we bring data and models together into a workflow for risk assessment and try to extend them for some of the new aspects of artificial intelligence. Sorry about my voice. I have had a very bad cold, so I'm a bit croaking. So just sort of more in the future aspect, and we talked about this in an ESA Talk conference in France last month. How do we get confident about incorporating AI into risk assessment? And we we need to take different kind of approaches, I think. For example, bringing not just fair data into our workflow, but putting it into harmonized knowledge graphs, and then getting more confident about the evidence we bring into workflows. So it's quite a challenging problem. When you try to create a knowledge graph on your data, you really see all the problems you missed when you hopefully try to curate your data. So this is an important, I think, goal going forward. And at this ESA Talk workshop on AI and risk assessment, um, which is being processed right now into some recommendations and initiatives and so on. I would say one, we saw there are many applications, many possibilities, a lot of opportunities, but most of the challenges at the end of the day are with data, like I just pointed out. Now, in terms of cases and applications, now here I'm focusing more on how we're going forward. So maybe today on the formulation, you're bringing in Noels from literature and animal data, but more and more we can't do that. It's going to be based on NAMs. And of course, there are a lot of NAMs initiatives. This is one we're involved in terms of Risk Hunter. And there we're trying to develop the integrated approaches for different endpoints for NAMs. As you can see, a combination of all sorts of things in terms of in vitro and in silico. But one of the main concepts is try to bringing all the evidence and data you have into a workflow. So this is called this ASPA workflow that we're working on under Risk Hunter, expanding it to ASPAs and as soon as possible to all projects. Excuse me. Sorry about my cold. So our idea there is we have a system supporting documenting all the workflows for the risk assessment coming from all the sources of information and trying to make that much more efficient. You know, it takes a lot of time to go to these 20 different databases and go to the models and bring everything in. So we're trying to make that much more efficient, assist it with artificial intelligence, but in the end have everything well documented, supporting the regulatory requirements. So if we produce a dossier, we can come back and say, this was the workflow, and this is the integrity on every piece of information that came from a piece of data, whether generated by an experiment or generated by a model, and so on. Now, a new initiative, especially in Europe, is this idea of safer and sustainable by design, which basically is saying the current approach to risk assessment and regulation is failing, right? And we need to take a new approach. And this is a proposed framework, and the expectation should be that the new regulatory frameworks, um, maybe 5, 10 years down the road, will be different, but currently it's voluntary. But if you want to understand where to be um, in an innovative positioning and also expectancy of where regulations are going, um, this is something to consider. So this is a project we're on, trying to apply this idea of safer and sustainable by design to chemical risk assessment. So this is that project here. So what we're trying to do there is sort of take the framework for doing this, which will include NAMS-based human and environmental assessment, but other things as well, like life cycle assessment, socioeconomic assessment, and we're testing it out in 3 industries. So one is our concentration today. So there we're working on cosmetics case studies, and we're very open to work with any of you on other sort of cosmetics case studies as we do that. For example, with smart safety, like I'll show you in a few minutes, but also extending it to other industries. So in this project, it's automobile or textile, but it could be other industries where formulations are important. Then just pointing out something with the safer skin application we introduced a few years ago. We still think beyond voting and decision trees by Asian networks are really the way to go in terms of having real quantified weight of evidence across different sources of evidence, which could, like you're seeing here, could be in vitro or in silico, and making predictions with confidence, including incomplete data, and a way to improve the um, um, results, reducing uncertainty by running new experiments. So this is something we believe in. I know it has additional acceptance responses because it's more mathematical and complicated, but we still think over the long term this is the way to go. So if you want to see this paper on the recent work we did with Beiersdorf, go to this link from a few weeks ago. Um, the other thing we're trying to do is, at the end of the day, we think risk assessment and the extensions to safer and sustainable by design need to be captured into workflows. And on any task and decision point, then we need to be clear about the data integrity, whether entered manually by a human or brought by an AI or extracted at a particular time and date from a database. We need to bring it into a workflow. So this is as an example, what we're currently working on. It has a characterization, how we want to go about this, and then we want to bring that into a workflow in our software, in our system, and into our calculators. If you're interested in this, just contact me. We'll talk more about it. It's a very interesting area. Um, the other thing, I just want to spend a minute or two on FAIR. So there's been this initiative now running since 2016. It's very challenging, but at the end of the day, it makes data an increasing amount of data collected from projects, more reusable, and and makes the data from a lot of programs have a higher quality. It's very challenging though, if you really want to make your data fair, which is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This is something we've been working on various projects. And I give you an example here where we really tried to put a process in place on that. And then all data needs to be linked to protocols and in the end test methods. Um, so we're making progress on, I would say, on this call. Also within your organizations, you may have fair initiatives. Um, it's very time consuming. So so I think we need to try to optimize this, and I see a lot of opportunity here to try to make this more efficient and achievable, assisted by artificial intelligence and good processes. So we tried to make a first attempt on this, how to organize such NAMs data and protocols within EU tax risk. There's a recent article on this I refer to here, and we've been taking that forward in newer projects like Risk Hunter. Um, and in the end, it's all about really organizing all the data very clearly, all the methods for producing the data. If it comes from literature, that's also fine. But when we bring it into our system for doing the risk assessment, um, this background aspect is really important. Another thing we've realized, I think from our case studies, is just having databases misses a lot in terms of insight and connections from compounds to assays to mechanisms. So what we're pursuing now is not just having a fair database, but having a fair knowledge infrastructure supported by knowledge graphs that link everything. So you can go from a compound to assays or to a model of a mechanism. And for that, you need knowledge graphs. Okay, so that's something we're working on. What I'll show you in a few minutes is smart safety. Now, this is more leaning on the practical because this was developed very closely between our team and Rames's team at Avon over the last couple of years. What do we need to bring together on formulas and ingredients, including contaminants for day-to-day decision making? So we have a first version of that. You can see this link. We have a demonstration set up. You can try it out. And of course, we want to bring all this new kinds of evidence um, into such a system. So for this, I think collaboration is really important. We don't need standalone applications. We need a good model, including business issues on the cloud, on how we work together to develop the solutions, test them with case studies. It needs to be multi-stakeholder oriented. So we're very oriented towards that. We just put a process in place on what we're doing, like on Safer World by Design and related projects. You could bring your interest in a problem formulation. We have a template for proposing your problem, and then we can review it and decide if it makes sense. We can go ahead with a case study to test out a particular solution and including confidentiality, but maybe sharing of hopefully of lessons learned to the broader community. That could be, within a particular industry forum like ICCS or in chemicals with CFIC and so on. So if you're interested in being involved in such a case study, how do we bring more evidence into risk assessment, decision making, treat uncertainty factors, and so on, to make a decision? Just message me, right? Okay, and that's we're a Safer World by Design webinar here. That's our main goal, bringing some stakeholders together to develop a particular solution for a particular problem. Now, I'll finish with my example. So smart safety is something we started in the cosmetics industry, but of course we're interested in applying it to other formulations and other industries now. So don't, if you're in the audience and you're interested in that, that's something we're very much interested in doing. But the first version of smart safety was developed with very close collaboration with a risk assessment group in the cosmetics industry. So it very much reflects that, and it just tries to manage the practical data on ingredients, contaminants, formulas for the day-to-day reporting, and then maybe your eventual reporting to different regulatory agencies. Now, what Europe requires is one thing. Now, let's say tomorrow you have to make 100 reports for China. If you don't have this data integrity I've been talking about ready in the database, you might spend weeks trying to pull together all these reports. If, on the other hand, if you have everything organized, then generating the new reports for China hopefully are there. And if you do it with good record keeping, like Daniel explained, if the FDA come in, then you can say, look, here's all the data in the system. We want to go beyond that. I'll give you an example to try out. We want to put calculators in place also for safer by design and sustainability. So I'll give you this example of the environmental scoring, and we're working on other calculators. So very happy to talk to you about that. And all that should be on the cloud. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration or to maybe take what we're doing and make it work for you. So think about that. And this is the smart safety software. It's very practical. It's about looking at information on formulas and then their ingredients, and including raw ingredients, which may be made of sub ingredients and contaminants, and then doing your margin of safety calculations, producing your reports, and it's all on the cloud. So, and then we have a demonstration version that you can try out. Something I'd like to highlight is include as an example module in that demonstration is this work. Here I reference on doing an environmental scoring. Now, what I like about this from the point of view of safer and sustainable by design, if you try and go and do a full life cycle assessment, it's really quite challenging. But if you want to get fairly quickly, once you've worked out your values going into this model, a sort of scoring on your opportunities of which ingredients you include in your product, you can pretty much do this right away. Once you've understood the mechanism and put in your values and so on. So I think in terms of a first iteration on your sustainability, this is very nice because you can almost do this right away. And then you can say, okay, now we've filter down our options on ingredients, right? Um, and we can go deeper into the specific details in the manufacturing process, consumer exposure, and so on. But that's a lot more work. But this is something you can do right away. So I like this kind of approach. We can do a quick, very business case effective scoring um, on this would be step 4 for SSBD, and we plan to be adding the modules for the other steps. The same kind of philosophy. First year, first iteration, get your initial results in your early innovation phase or decision making for a substitution. Get that data as quickly as possible in in at least a few days, and hopefully in the future right away. So the demonstration, if any of you want to try out the demonstration version of this, just take this link and go to smartsafety.edelweissconnect.com. I will show you a little, I hope I logged in there. I hope it's working. Okay. So you can try different things here. It is a demonstration version, of course, because we can't include any confidential information here, but it's set up that you can, we have a couple of examples, and you can also go in and upload your example according to this template, or you can create a formula and go through a sequence, try it. If it doesn't work, let me know. It's a very early first version of our product, so there's plenty of improvements. And then once you have your formula in, there will be various properties you assign to your formula. Now that could be in your template, or you could edit it manually, like like I show here. It's a rinse-off product, like a shampoo. So you can always edit what has been entered. And our goal in progress, I would say, in terms of the importance of data integrity that Daniel just showed, is we keep a history of everything uploaded and then any changes by anyone on the team subsequently to any formula or any ingredient. And then you have an ingredient, and of course, everything needs a unique identifier. So a raw ingredient may consist of sub-ingredients plus contaminants. I'm not going to get into all details, but like a raw ingredient could be what you get from your supplier. And then if you go into the raw ingredient, you have sub-ingredients, and that's typically what you have your testing information on. And of course, you can profile that. We're working on various ways of bringing this sort of data in from sources like COSAIN or ECHA database and so on, and trying to automate the population of this, but also if you have your own information to support your batch uploading information on ingredients and profiles. Now, this example I gave, and we share the slides, of course. It's I can't go into the detail on this in this webinar, but happy to do in a follow-up. This environmental scoring example I gave from the paper. Basically, you have a series of calculators, and you can either bring in default values here, or you have an override, or you want to override the examples. And basically, it's a series of calculators. You go through and fill in your information, and you immediately have an environmental scoring, good, medium, bad on bringing this ingredient into your formula, or ideally, of course, being able to search for better alternatives if it has a bad score. Yeah. So that's where we're going on that. Just back to formulas, one of the maybe the most common things you'll do once you have the formula entered is you want to do a margin of safety calculation. So, so we have in the demonstration version, enter your exposure information for the product, different kinds of products and so on. You can always override it if you want. Maybe a younger child, you could hold on. No, that wasn't very good. Um, you should be able to override that. And if you're not happy with it, edit things manually and so on. We also have a similarity function. Maybe it's hard in a demonstration version like this where we only have a couple of formula, but imagine you have many, many thousands of formula. We try with a similarity. Okay, what's the most similar formula you've had before? So you could take a look there. And then of course you want to go to reports. Actually, just back to this margin of safety. No matter what you do, even if you change values, you can save your margin of safety calculation and that report, and then that goes into the document management system, right? But maybe then you have to prepare we give an example, your reports for China. We provide a template to bring the data into the template you need for, say, the dossier for China and CSAR, and maybe it needs some editing, but at least you have a good start here, like as you can see. Again, work in progress for improving that. Very happy to work with people. Some initial feedback on this margin of safety calculation, for example, is to provide more information like transparency on the calculations. Where does each piece of data come from? And then save that into the reports. That's something we're working on. I hope we'll have for, we're working on versions every 2 weeks. I hope we have that in place for the end of the year. Okay, so that's that part. I hope that gave you a good feeling of what we're trying to do there and the applications we're developing, and also then increasingly, I didn't show actually, increasingly linking them with NAMS applications like Safer Skin, which you'll